What's going on, guys? Welcome back for episode 16 of Divine Journey 2. As you know from the last episode, we finally unlocked the ME interface so we can get into a lot of passiving of materials. But before we do that, I want to get some of these trees moved out of the farming station. And for that, we're going to be using the plant sower and plant gatherer from Industrial Foregoing. And at this point, these are some pretty simple crafts. I think we should already have everything we need. So let's go ahead and get the plant sower. And then the plant gatherer, we're just missing the 3 different types of hose. So we'll get the rupee, the realmite, and then lastly the arlemite. And that should be able to get the plant gatherer for us. And then we're also going to need a couple of these tier 12 range add-ons, which just scale progressively. So I'm going to go ahead and get these crafted up as well. Alright, so I got the tier 12 range add-ons crafted up. And these things are ginormous, way bigger than I thought it was going to be. This actually gives us a 25 block by 25 block area. And I don't think I want to go that big, so I'm going to actually craft up some lower tier ones. I'm not sure which ones yet, though. Alright, this is a tier 7 range add-on, which gives you a 15 by 15 area. And I think that's going to be perfect because it's going to give us a 5 by 5 area of dirt to plant each of our different types of crops on. And this seems like a pretty good spot to me to put this. So I'm going to start clearing out some of this and flattening out the land. That's much better. Now the only thing left to do should be able to get our plant sower down here and throw our range add-on in it, and let's make sure that that lines up with it. It does. Alright, we can turn that off and bring over some power. And we actually need to replace one of these 5 by 5 sections with slimy dirt and another one with endstone. And the last thing we should need to do is start filtering our inputs. So we're going to do these few saplings here, and we'll lock the inventory, which is going to plant all of our crops here. And then when they get harvested, this is going to give us a fluid sludge, and the items will go into here and get transferred straight into our drawer system over here. And now everything appears to be working, except for these chorus plants seem to be blocking off some of these trees from growing because they're growing in all different directions. So I think we're going to move these back up to the farming station. And lastly, we'll just give each of these machines some speed and energy add-ons. That way we can work a lot faster. And I think we'll just let the sludge overflow. Next up, I think I want to work on a little bit more grid power production, and we're going to use lava mills for this. So let's go ahead and get 16 of these. And then we're going to place these in a pattern just like so. Then we can just get a lava bucket down in the middle of each of these. That increases our grid power production to 110.33. And then to clean this area up a little bit, I just added in some stairs and some white concrete and raised them up by a block. And the last thing I want to take care of before we get back into passiving is I want to process the cinnabar and nickel into nickel and platinum. To do that, we can just steal our original setup from over here. And we'll set these back up under the floor in the same room. And then we'll export bus in cryothium from the ME system. Once that goes into this magma crucible, it's going to turn into gelid cryothium and get pushed straight into the fluid transposer, which will filter in cinnabar on the light gray channel, which is going to get extracted out into this drawer system on the blue channel and inserted back into this induction smelter along with nickel on the light gray channel. And finally, the nickel and platinum will get inserted back into this drawer system, and that completes the loop. Now it's time to get back into some passiving. So first I want to complete this drawer wall here. For that we're going to need spruce wood, pulverized coal, and resonant clathrate. Following the same pattern as last time, I got the spruce wood filtered into the sawmill. That gives us our spruce planks, and then also an output of oil, which goes eventually to the fluid transposer where our resonant clathrate is going in, giving us the coated clathrate. And then the pulverized coal is going into this vacuum crucible to eventually get turned into energized dark ingots. But we also get a byproduct of tar and sulfur. Next, I want to craft up a precision sawmill, which we're going to get down right here and filter spruce planks in from the back. And man, that guy is so much louder than the thermal sawmill. Let's go ahead and mute. That's much better. That's going to give us sticks and sawdust as an output. We already have the sawdust on the left, but we can go and filter the sticks in this drawer on the right. And since we filled up our first ME interface, it's time to get down a second one. Then we'll use an alloy smelter just to the left of this fluid transposer to make our energized dark. That's going to need to pull in bitumen and tar from the ME system, on the blue channel of course. And I almost made the mistake of not using a limited item filter here. If you don't have one of those, it's going to fill in this third slot and stop making alloys. But now that I got that, we should just need to throw in a capacitor, and it's going to start running. And immediately the dark ingot is going to get pushed into here, turned into energized dark, and then pushed into this drawer, which I do think I'm going to want a storage downgrade on it, so we'll downgrade it to 8 stack limit. And this pulverizer for bone meal is the last machine that we need to hook up, so we'll request bones in our ME interface and send those over on the blue channel. Now I want to bring these 3 machines over so that we can start making auto biodiesel, but I think we're just going to make new ones because I kind of want to leave this base as it is so that we have something to come back to and see what we're looking like in the early game. And this room over here has been designated for that for a while now. So first we'll get the squeezer down right here, then the fermenter, and finally the refinery. And there we go. Now, I do have a one bigger block gap here than here. So I think I'm going to move this over real quick. Much better. Then we need to connect the inputs and outputs with a couple of conduits. Then we can bring power over. And finally, our seeds and wheat through an ME interface. And with that, we have automated biodiesel production, which we'll need to send into a couple of fluid transposers, which are also going to need Certus quartz and osmium from the ME interface. And that's going to automatically make us energize Certus quartz and osmium, which we'll filter into some drawers with some storage downgrades, and connect up to the ME system with a drawer controller and a storage bus. Now I want to get the passiving done for steel plates, steel rods, tin gears, iron plates, and iron rods. For the rods, we're going to use precision sawmills, and for the plates and gears, we're going to use compactors. And each of those machines is going to need a drawer with a storage downgrade, as well as a little bit of power, and the respective item filtered through the ME interface into the back of the machine. And then we get these 5 items, which we just need to filter into the drawers. And lastly is tin gears. And that completes one full wall of our passiving setup. Now I want to automate the production of coal coke, hop graphite treated wood, and hop graphite dust. To do that, we're going to get a redstone furnace, a fluid transposer, a pulverizer, an alloy smelter, and another pulverizer. The redstone furnace is going to need the pyrolytic conversion augment, and then we can filter that for coal on the backside, which is very, very slowly going to give us coal coke and creosote oil. So let's go ahead and give that a hardened upgrade. And then add a tank for the creosote oil and filter the drawer for the coal coke. That creosote oil is then going to get pushed into this fluid transposer with a fluid conduit. And I'll add a fluid trash can on the back with a negative priority so that it voids the excess fluids. From there, we'll filter the spruce wood into the back of the fluid transposer. That's going to give us our treated wood planks, which we can go ahead and filter into the drawer. Then we'll filter coal coke into the back of the pulverizer, which actually doesn't need this drawer because it's only used for the alloy smelter. So we'll have the output straight down, and then make sure we give the alloy smelter a capacitor. That'll make us our hop graphite, which can be filtered into the next drawer. And then that hop graphite is going to need to go into the back of the second pulverizer, where it'll get processed into hop graphite dust, and we can filter that drawer, which completes our second wall here. And now I want to automate each of these dusts that is used to make the mana dust, which means I'm going to need to rework this XP system a little bit. Something like this should work. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this storage bus on the bottom just because it's right on bedrock. So if you build a mob farm, make sure you don't do it right on bedrock. At least leave yourself a couple blocks to walk underneath. Now we should just be able to fluid export bus the liquid XP into this iron drum that we had down below, and then fluid conduit out of that into these 4 fluid transposers. And actually we only need 3 fluid transposers because for the aerothium dust, we're already producing blitz rods in our mob farm. So we'll use a crushing factory instead. Then we're going to need to bring over sulfur dust, niter, and blitz rods in the ME interface. So I have 2 of these fluid transposers and this crushing factory filtered. So we just need to start setting the outputs. But this middle one, we're actually missing snowballs, so we're going to need to get a way to automate that, which I think we'll use the glacial precipitator for. And since we already have a never-ending bowl set up, we can just set that up on the blue channel and filter the drawer. And we'll pull all those dusts out into a crafter tier 2, which is going to get all 4 recipes and 1 slot for each of the items it needs to craft with, as well as 1 slot for each output, and then some filler items, and we can click remember. By doing that, it's going to remember what goes in each slot so that it can't overfill. And then once we get all of the items filtered in, we can go ahead and turn this guy on and filter all the output drawers, which now completes our 3rd wall of our passiving automations. And since we brought our liquid XP up here, we might as well go ahead and automate bottles of experience. So we'll get our XP bottler and a formulaic assemblator, which needs a crafting formula, and then we can encode it for glass bottles. And then we just need to send a little bit of liquid XP in there and have our bottles of enchanting auto output to a drawer on the right. The next setup I want to work on is GP powder automation. So we're going to need to add crushed black quartz to our interface and get a tier 1 crafter down. And the only thing over here that we're not producing right now is diamond dust. So we'll do that with a pulverizer. And now this setup should be ready to go. We just need to set the recipe. So we come in here, throw all of that in, make sure this is set right, and hit apply. It's going to start crafting GP powder, which will automatically loop back in here because the bottom is set up with a priority of 5, extract on black channel, and self-feed mode is enabled. Then we just need to filter the drawer, and GP powder is now automated, which means I can set up another formulaic assemblator to automatically craft polished stone, and I can have that auto output into a resonator on top, and have that stone burnt that's produced automatically output into this drawer. Next up, I want to use this alloy smelter to automatically produce dark steel. To do that, I need to limited item filter, refined obsidian, steel, and energized dark. And the last thing to do is filter the drawer. Next up, I want to get seared brick on passive. So we're going to get a formulaic assemblator with the crafting formula, as well as an energized smelter, and then bring over clay, which will go into the formulaic assembler with some gravel and sand. And then if we encode that formula, turn auto mode on, stock control on, it's going to make grout, which will get sent into this energized smelter to give us seared brick, and then we just need to filter the drawer. Alright guys, so check this out. I've actually added the P2P tunnels on this entire side of the controller now, and we have one P2P here, but it's not linked yet. And the reason I did that is because right around here, I was starting to run out of channels because we have some channels going down there and some down there and some up here. And I needed to add another ME interface. So let's go ahead and link this. I'm going to show you how to do it real quick. So all you do is you come up to the P2P tunnel and you shift right click. And then you come to the one you want to link and you right click. It's that simple. This is now loaded up. And here in just a second, once the ME system reboots, now we have 9 channels on this end of the network. Alright, the next thing I want to work on crafting is RF powder, but this thermal conductor rod has an XP value, so we're going to give it mending. Then we're going to get another crafter down with a fluid tank next to it. We're going to fill that fluid tank with liquid XP so that it can repair the thermal conductor rod. Then if we filter all the items in here, and add the recipe for RF powder, it's going to spit the thermal conductor rod out into the output. And then we can filter this fluid tank for push-pull, which is automatically going to pull the thermal conductor rod in and repair it, which completes the automation for RF powder, but we still need to get bronze blend automated. And for that, we use a pulverizer and an alloy smelter. Then I'm going to bring over copper and tin and limited item filter the alloy smelter for copper and tin and give it a capacitor. That's going to give us our bronze ingots, which we'll filter into a drawer next to the alloy smelter. And then we'll filter that bronze into the back of the pulverizer and filter bottles of enchanting, not bronze, and GP powder into the back of the crafter, which completes our RF powder automation. And I guess while we're here, we can go ahead and use this crafter to make mana dust as well. We just need to add the items to the filter and add a drawer for it as well. Now I want to work on automating lunar reactive dust. So first we'll get down 2 alloy smelters. And in the first one, we'll limited item filter glowstone ingots, osmium, and refined obsidian. But now we're getting Osco glass. And then we'll need to bring over lapis, which will limited item filter into the next one with Osco glass to get Osco lapis, which will then filter into the drawer. And that's going to go into another resonator to give us the lunar reactive dust. And this lunar reactive dust is one part of making demon lord ingots. The other part's demon ingots. And that's where this is going to get a little bit more complicated. We can either throw gold into lava with nether bricks on all four sides, or we can throw gold into fire water, which should just transform it straight into it. So I think I'm going to go this route just for a smaller footprint, and we should be able to get fire water now with the vat from Ender.io. So first we're going to give this thing a few buckets of water, and then some seeds and some sugar, which gives us a bucket of hooch, which we can throw back in here with some blaze powder and redstone, and that's going to give us our fire water. So let's go ahead and test this out to make sure it works the way I think it will. And that did work pretty quick. Does this hurt? Surprisingly not. And I think I want to use integrated dynamics to try to automate this. So let's craft up some logic cables, some variable cards, some input variable transformers, some output variable transformers, a couple of item interfaces, a world item exporter, an item importer. Run some pulp cores through the squeezer to get crystallized core as chunks, and craft those with some hyper diamonds to get logic directors. Using that we can craft into the world item exporter and the world item importer, an inventory reader, and a variable store. And we'll probably also need a logic programmer, which we'll just go ahead and upgrade to the portable one. Now we're going to get the world item exporter on the bottom of this block and the importer on the back. Then I'm going to go with a reinforced frame trap door here. We can color that like glass, and a drawer here on the right side with an inventory reader on the bottom. And then we can connect all those up with some cables to the variable store. We're going to need to read the inventory count and get an integer of 64 for one stack, and read if this inventory count is less than this integer, we get a boolean. Then we'll create an item variable with gold ingots and a blank item variable. Then we can tell it if this boolean is true, which means that if this integer is greater than this integer or less than this integer, then we will drop gold ingots, and if it's false, we will drop nothing, and we'll grab that variable. Then we can put the final variable card in the place item entity and change the item transfer rate to 8, and then throw the rest of these variables in the variable store. And then we're going to need another item variable for the demon ingots, and then we can connect the system up to the ME interface with an interface, and we'll set it to pick up item entity demon ingots and place down our fire water. Alright, so check this out. When I put this variable card in, you can hear it spit out some items. Well, those items are 10 ingots, even though I have gold ingots filtered. So I'm going to check out a couple of ideas on how to fix that, and I'll let you know it works. Alright, so I got it figured out. This blank variable card for reinforced, or it was just blank. Now it has reinforced frame trap doors because that's something that will never end up in this interface. The blank one was just defaulting to any ingot that wasn't a gold ingot. So once I switched that out, everything's running smoothly now. So currently there is over a stack in here, but if I was to say take a stack out, it's going to activate, pick those items up and put them in there, and it'll repeat that process until there's a stack in here, and then at which point it's just going to stop. But with that out of the way, we can get another alloy smelter down, and limited item filter demon ingots and lunar reactive dust, and that's going to give us our demon lord ingots, which we'll send into 2 more alloy smelters, one of which is going to have platinum and mana dust, and the other one's going to have gunpowder. And that'll automate mobgrindium and mithril, which completes this entire cube of passiving. Just take a good look at that. It feels good. And that actually has us fully automated through all these tiers all the way up to the simple machine chassis. But let's not stop there. If we run some more conduits and cables up here, we can set this room up exactly like the last one, and maybe even a little more clean. Starting out in this room, I want to get a crafter, 2 alloy smelters, and 2 basic crushing factories. And we'll bring over nether quartz, fertilizer, coal, pulverized coal, slime balls, and lapis. And once we filter those in, we'll get nether quartz, crushed lapis, organic black dye, and organic brown dye, and then organic black dye. Then we'll get another alloy smelter down with iron and ender pearls, which will give us pulsating iron. And we'll also bring over diamantine, and make sure to remember all the items that we need for industrial dye blend, solitude dye blend, enhanced dye blend, and pulsating crystals. which we will go ahead and filter into these 4 drawers, and then filter all the inputs into the back. And somehow I missed organic green dye, so let's work on that one next, which means we're going to need another ME interface with cactus that we'll send into an energized smelter, and we'll send that into another alloy smelter with slime balls and pulverized coal, and that'll give us our organic green dye. And for the last item in this system, we're going to need a sag mill, which we'll send our pulsating crystals into to get the grains of pisality, which means that we're automated all the way up to the industrial machine chassis, and we only lack the automation of these 3 ingots to get all the way up to the enhanced machine chassis. So let's go ahead and bring over chorus fruit, endstone, dark steel, soul sand, gold, and obsidian. And we'll send the chorus fruit into an energized smelter to get popped chorus, and then we'll get 3 more alloy smelters down. The first one's going to be filtered with soul sand and gold. The next one's going to get endstone, dark steel, and obsidian. And the last one's going to get end steel and popped chorus, which is going to give us our solarium, our melodic alloy, and our end steel, which actually automates us up to the enhanced machine chassis. Next up, I want to finish off this wall with these 3 alloys. So we're going to get down 3 more alloy smelters and another interface. And we'll bring over redstone, silver, and glowstone. And in the first alloy smelter, we'll send redstone, gold, and glowstone with a limited item filter, which will give us energetic alloy. And we'll send that into the next alloy smelter with some ender pearls to get vibrant alloy. And then the last one, we'll send in silver, redstone, and glowstone. And that'll give us our energetic silver, which completes this wall. For the next setup, I want to bring over gravel, sand, clay, and energized dark ingots. And we're going to need to get down a crusher, a formulaic assemblicator, and an energized smelter. And we'll send the energized dark ingots into the back of the crusher, which is going to give us energized dark dust. And we'll send the rest of those items into the formulaic assemblicator, which will give us conduit binder composite. And after being processed through the smelter, will give us conduit binder. Now I want to get down 5 more alloy smelters. And in the first one, we'll send over energetic silver and ender pearls for vivid alloy. Next, we'll send silicone and steel for electrical steel. Next, we'll send copper, silver, and redstone for signalum. Next, we'll do lead, platinum, and ender pearls for enderium base. And finally, we'll do sand and enderium base for enderium. And there's 5 more ingots on passive. And I think that's about all the passiving we're going to get done in this episode. So now let's claim all of our unclaimed quest rewards, which there wasn't too many of, and they're not all that great. Some of them are going to be useful, but we really weren't setting out to do quests in this episode. But thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the episode, make sure to drop down and leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And goodbye.